Okay, I'm at Barber's house. This is the second video, and this is in regards to overall landscape maintenance and whatnot. So, I'm in the back of the yard here behind the pool. So this area is one area that's going to have to be maintained. Some of the black fabric is currently showing, so I would add some more mulch in here next spring. And then there's a little piece of lawn that has to be cut down here. The birch tree is going to continue to grow, and that grows about 3 feet a year. So you want to keep on clipping that back so you don't block your view from the house out to the ocean. So that should be something that needs to be trimmed back once a year. Okay, you got Rugosa roses. That's a Rugosa rose. Emerald green arborvitaes. These are mating grass. The emerald green arborvitaes, I would tie those before the winter so they don't split down the middle from a heavy snowstorm. It's more cost effective to tie them with jute string than it is to use burlap, so that's a good idea for some cost savings. You got a couple different Japanese maples, one here and one there. And you know, again, just continue trimming these back. Just be aware that they want to grow about 15 feet wide. They've been doing a pretty good job cutting them back, but I would probably cut them back a little bit more natural rather than such like almost like perfect circles. I think if they looked a little more natural, they'd probably look a little bit better. And I would take out this cedar, because the cedar is kind of growing into that tree. It doesn't make any sense. So I would take that tree out, take out the cedar here, leave the Japanese maple. All right. The other thing from an improvement perspective we talked about was potentially taking out these boxwoods. Maybe you can leave these. These are in still pretty decent shape, but take out these two groups and then think about other salt tolerant shrubs that can give you some nice color in this area. Okay. These are called common cypress. You got a lot of common cypress on the property, these green plants. These are Hinoki obtusa gracilis, Kava cypress. So just keep on trimming them back. I mean, they're going to eventually want to keep on getting bigger and bigger. That looks like you recently put in some Schwalbe hollies. So those just have to keep on getting trimmed back. Another Japanese maple, spruce, junipers. In this area, to be honest with you, I think it's a good idea to potentially think of something else that's going to give you more color rather than the junipers. I get the fact that maybe you're trying to get it to match, but that's going to take quite a long time for that to fill in. Another type of a spruce. And you got Steed's holly back here. That's what these are called, here and here. Some fountain grasses, tree hydrangeas, mating grasses. And it looks like that area down there, you can only really cut it when it's dry. Kind of the area beyond the wall. It looks like you do maintain it. I'm not sure if that gets weed whacked down. So that's something else just to point out. There's some sort of a maintenance going on beyond that wall. Then beyond that, you got all the natural vegetation from the ocean. I'm assuming you don't touch that. Okay. Bunch of daylilies over here. I would power wash your bluestone. You'll get rid of, see how it's all green? If you power wash it, the original color will come back. When you do power wash, you're probably going to have to rejoint some of these, some of the cement, as you can see, is loosening up, which will eventually cause you to have to replace the whole step because the water will get underneath the step and then freeze and expand and push up the step. So you're better off kind of getting ahead of that rather than behind it. So power wash it and do a little repointing on some of the cement would be smart in here. Okay. So that's that. The good thing about us is we offer a full package when it comes to maintenance. So this way you're not having to hire a different lawn fertilizing company than the guy who's actually cutting the lawn and the guy who's spraying the trees. We offer it as one package. Usually you get better service that way because we have a higher frequency visits to the property, so we can kind of point out these issues or prevent costly replacements. So you know, kind of a all-in-one service that can also do some preventative communication really makes a lot of sense for some clients that have a big investment in plants. This is Manhattan Euonymus. You got to keep this really sprayed because you get something called gall, which is a soil-borne disease, or you can get scale. It just has a lot of issues. The client up the street, Mrs. Cruikshank on your street, has the same plant. We have to constantly treat it to prevent it from having major issues. You got creeping hydrangea vines, and you got a lot of mophead hydrangeas. See these guys here? Looks like they're actually serrata hydrangeas, which is the same concept. What happens with these is they're intermittent whether they're going to bloom or not, because they bloom on last year's wood. So they don't bloom on this spring's wood, they bloom on last year's buds, and the buds set up August 1st of the previous year. So the problem is, if you get a bad winter and those buds get damaged over the winter, which is pretty common, then you won't have any flowers the following season. So, you know, let's see how these do, but it's the most common complaint from a client that has blue hydrangeas or serrata hydrangeas, which are called lace cap hydrangeas, is that they're not blooming. Something you can't control because they bloom on last year's wood. You could have originally installed either arborescent hydrangea, which is called a smoothleaf hydrangea, or paniculata hydrangeas. Both of those families of hydrangeas bloom on new wood, meaning that they flower consistently every year with no problem. And you might, you know, in the future say, you know what, I really want color in these areas. Let me relocate these maybe behind the pool where you don't really see them, just to kind of fill the area. And why don't we replace them with something that we know we're going to get color from? And that's just a good suggestion, because what's the point of having a hydrangea if it doesn't bloom? All right. Then you got some laurels over here, and the laurels, they get shot hole disease. See all the little holes? That's called shot hole disease. And we never plant these because they got so many. These are a West Coast plant that they ship from California over here. They go through really bad winter burn issues. So if you're gonna end up burlapping anything, you would burlap these. But we don't plant them for that reason. They're just not dependable. Okay. So you got some boxwoods over here, so you still want to treat these systemically in the spring to prevent leaf miner, which I'm sure your current provider is doing. This is called lamb's ear. Problem with lamb's ear, sometimes it turns to mush. If you get like a period of a month of rain, it'll just turn into mush. So you just have to be aware of it. You can't prevent that. If it happens, it happens. Wasn't a bad idea to put it here because it's on top of like almost a ledge, and it prefers really, really dry conditions. Then you got allium, which are one of my favorite perennials. These are really gorgeous, so that's great. I would say you have a chance in here to perhaps add some more allium to kind of fill these gaps. And I think you could add a lot of color that way, which would look really nice. Looks like you've added some mums for fall color, but just an idea. And then you could even consider adding more vinca, which is actually you don't have vinca. You got a mix of vinca and you got a mix of ivy over there. So you got two different types of ground covers. If you got blasted with sun right here, the vinca actually is not a good idea because it doesn't really like really hot afternoon sun. But anyways, I would just do more allium because I love those. I love those perennials. Blue Princess Holly, Mugo Pine. Oh wow, you don't see that too often. So you got a Japanese umbrella vine in a pot. At a certain point, that's going to get root bound, and meaning that it's going to outgrow the pot and the tree's going to die. That's probably about $1,000 tree right now. So I would consider planting that as soon as you can in a spot, because once you go through a bad winter and it gets root bound, it's going to die. So I would highly suggest that. Japanese umbrella pine, great tree, just needs to be put in the ground soon. And you got more, these are called green velvet boxwood, which are the ones that match up there. You got a whole hedge of these, so that's fine. This is a lion's head maple, and great tree. We use it. It just grows very, very slow. Cryptseed Chymocypress. Probably not enough sunlight here for it here to do really great, and also it's going to get really big over time, but it's probably fine for the next 5 years. More hollies, more laurels. Again, I would have stayed away from the laurels, but you have them already. Blue spruce. These usually get spruce canker, which means the bottom branches die, so we stopped using those because of that. So if you know all the diseases and the common stuff that plants that have problems, then usually you can try to stay away from them. So, okay. This is your access into the backyard. You got some weeds in the lawn, so that should have been spot sprayed, because the problem is that's going to spread. You got to stay on top of that, but we offer that as an in-house service. The lawn in general is pretty good, though, I have to say. Nepeta, Coronata hollies, dwarf hollies. So that's it. So I'll put together kind of a maintenance proposal for you, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.